Hello students, let us do question number 9 of the exercise again which is related to the Wheatstone bridge. Here we have a 4 resistor R1, R2, R3, R4 which are the 4 arms of the Wheatstone bridge. In the place of galvanometer we have a fifth resistor R5 and one external resistor also, that is R6. The values are given. The first thing we have to check is whether the bridge is balanced or unbalanced. So R1 divided by R2, that is 10 divided by 5, that is 2, equal to R3 divided by R4, that is 5 upon 10, that is half. So the bridge is not balanced, and we have to find out the current flowing through each resistance or each branch. So let us do the distribution. Here the distribution of the current is not given. Let the current is taken as I. This I comes to the junction A. So let this current is equal to I1. So this current is equal to I minus I1. Now at point C or junction C, again let the current flowing through this R5 is taken as I2. So the current flowing through R2 will be equal to I1 minus I2. This I2 come at point D, and here I minus I1 comes. So this is I2, here it is I minus I1, and plus I2 comes to this junction. So the current approaching junction D is I minus I1 and plus I2. Now this both the current comes at junction B. So I2 get cancelled with this plus I2, plus I1 minus I1. So it is cancelled. So I goes into the Wheatstone bridge and I comes out from the Wheatstone bridge. It means the distribution of the current is properly done. Now if you see the variable, there are three variables, I, I1 and I2. So we need the three loops to find out the current flowing in each branch. So applying Kirchhoff's second law to loop AC. So AC R5 DA, that is one branch from A to C, C to D, and then D to A. A to C in the direction of current, so minus I1 R1. C to D again in the direction of current, minus I2 R2. Sorry, R5. Then the current is coming in the opposite direction, so plus R3, I minus I1 equal to 0. Substituting the value, so minus 10 I1 R5, that is 5, minus 5 R2 plus R3, that is 5 I minus I1 is equal to 0. Therefore minus 10 I1 minus 5 I2 plus 5 I minus 5 I1 is equal to 0. Therefore this I1 minus 15 I1 minus 5 I2 plus 5 I is equal to 0. Dividing it by 5, minus 3 I1 minus I2 plus I is equal to 0. This is our equation number 1. We need three loops. Because the value of the battery is also given, so we have to take one loop which is consists of battery in its path. So first half, then we have taken this as second half. So applying Kirchhoff's second law to the loop C, B, D, R5 and again to C, this half. So from C to B in the direction of the current, so minus sign, minus R2 I1 minus I2. B to D, current is coming from opposite direction. So plus R4 I minus I1 plus I2. Then again the current is coming in the opposite direction. So plus R5 I2 equal to 0. So we are taking this loop in the direction of the current, opposite to the direction of current, opposite to the direction of current. Substituting value R2 minus 5 I1 minus I2, R4 10 I minus I1 plus I2, R5 that is 5 plus 5 I2 is equal to 0. So minus 5 I1 plus 5 I2 plus 10 I minus 10 I1 plus 10 I2 plus 5 I2 equal to 0. So I1 minus 5 minus 10, that is minus 15 I1. I2 that is 5 I2, 10 I2 and again 5 I2. So 5 plus 5, 10 plus 20, 20 I2. Then plus 10I is equal to 0, and therefore we take this dividing by 5, minus 3I1 plus 4I2 plus 2I is equal to 0. This is our equation number 2, and this is our equation number 1. A third loop, because the value of the battery is given, so we take a loop which consists of a battery. So applying Kirchhoff's second law to loop A, D, B, E, that is a battery, and again A. So A to D in the direction of current, that is minus R3 I minus I1. Again in the direction of the current, minus R4 I minus I1 plus I2. Then outside we meet this first negative terminal, so minus E in the direction of current, that is I current is flowing, so minus IR6. So we have this sign. Now here if I remove this minus sign and substitute the value, so I am removing this minus sign from both the side. So R3 is 5, so 5I minus 5I1, then R4 that is taken as plus 10 now, so plus 10I minus 10I1 plus 10I2 plus R6 that is 10I, and the battery is minus is cancelled there, so it is 10. So I is 10 plus 5, 15 plus 10, 25I. I1 minus 15I1 plus 10I2 is equal to 10. So dividing this by 5, it is 5I minus 3I1 plus 2I2 is equal to 2. Now this is our equation number 3. Now if we see equation 1, 2 and 3, minus 3I1 is same, so we can make this minus 3I1 as a subject. So comparing equation 1 and equation 3, so here minus 3I1 is taken as the subject. So if I compare, okay, let me first compare 1 and 2, then 2 and 3. So this minus 3I1 is taken to that side, it becomes plus 3I1. This minus 3I1 is taken to that side, it becomes 3I1. So directly I can write I2 plus I is equal to 4I2 plus 2I. So this minus 3I1 is made subject. This can be written as minus 5I2 minus I is equal to 0. So this is our equation number 5. Now similarly, comparing equation 2 and equation 3, we compare equation 2 and equation 3. Again minus 3i1 is taken to that side, so it becomes plus 3i1. Here minus 3i1 taken to that side becomes plus 3i1. 2 is taken to this side. So 4i2 plus 2i is equal to 5i plus 2i2 minus 2. So this is comparing 1 and 2 and comparing equation 2 and 3. So now this can be written as 2i2 minus 3, this is 4i2 plus 2i, yes. So this can be written as 2i2 minus 3i is equal to minus 2. This is our equation number 6. So equating 1 and 2 and equating 2 and 3, we get this equation, that is minus 3i minus 2i into 2. So this is the equation. Now here I2 is minus sign and here I2 is in plus sign. So we multiply this equation by 2, this equation by 5, and then we add the equation so that we can find out I2. So multiplying equation 5 by 2 and equation 6 by 5. So this is multiplied by 2. So minus 10i2 minus 2i is equal to 0. Then this is multiplied by 5. So 10i2 minus 15i is equal to minus 10. So we add this to equation. It becomes minus 17i is equal to minus 10. So I is equal to 10 by 17 ampere. So we get the total current in the circuit to be 10 by 17 ampere. Now I can substitute this I in any of these two equations and find out the I2 in the circuit. So substitute I is equal to 10 by 17, say in equation number 5. So this is equation 5. So minus 5i2 is equal to I, and therefore I2 is equal to I upon minus 5, that is equal to minus 10. So I2 comes out to be negative. It means the direction of the current we have taken from C to D, actually it should be from D to C. So it is possible that while applying the Kirchhoff law, current comes out to be negative. It means the potential at D will be high as compared to potential at C. However, first we substitute this value, so it becomes minus 10 upon 17 into 5, that is minus 2 upon 17 ampere. So this is your I2. We have to find out all the variables, and here we write, here negative sign means I2 actually flow from junction D to junction C. So this is our I2 value, this is I. Now I have to find out I1. So I take the help of this equation, substitute I2 is equal to minus 2 upon 17 and I is equal to 10 upon 17 in equation number 2. So this was minus 3I1 plus 4I2, so plus 4 within bracket minus 2 upon 17 plus 2 10 upon 17 is equal to 0. So this is the calculation for I1. So 17 can be taken as LCM. So 17 threes are, that is 51 minus 51 I1 minus 8 plus 20 is equal to 0. So that is the 17 is taken as an LCM. So this is equal to minus 51 I1. This is equal to plus 12 is equal to 0. So I1 is equal to 12 upon 51, that is again 4 upon 17 ampere. So this is the current flowing through R1. Now you have to write the name of each and every branch in the answer, that whatever amount is current is flowing in the respective branches. So branch AC. So AC branch is I1, so I1 is equal to 4 upon 17 ampere. Branch CD, that is I2, it is minus 2 upon 17 ampere. Similarly, branch CB, that is I1 minus I2, so this can be written as 4 upon 17 minus of minus 2 by 17, so that is 6 by 17 ampere. So similarly you write for this branch AD, you write the answer. Then we have a branch BD, you can write that answer. So you do this calculation. So this is I minus I1, that is 10 by 17 minus 4 by 17, so that is 6 by 17, like this. And the current flowing through R6 is I, that is the total current 10 by 17. So you write the current of the respective branches. Now let us move to the another numerical of our exercise. Now let us see question number 1 and 2 of exercise, which are the direct application or the direct formula. In the first case, a battery of 12 volt for a car having an internal resistance 0.4 ohm is given. We have to find out the maximum current in the circuit. Suppose we know that we connect an external resistance in the circuit to control the current I, and if we don't connect this external resistance, the current in the circuit is dangerously high, which may damage the circuit. So if external resistance is connected, then I is equal to total EMF upon total resistance. This is the Ohm's law. Now to find out the maximum current, so your external resistance should be low. Ideally, it should be 0. So for I to be I max, R is equal to 0. And therefore, I max formula is E upon small r, that is 12 divided by 0.4. So this becomes, the current becomes 30 ampere. So you have to remember that if the external resistance is 0, the current flowing in the circuit is maximum, that we have discussed earlier also. Now in the second question, the current is given, EMF is given, internal resistance is given. you have to find out the external resistance as well as terminal potential difference V. Now, because the value is unknown, you can apply the Kirchhoff second law to the loop, or because this circuit consists of only cell and the resistance, again I is equal to total EMF divided by total resistance. So 0.5 is equal to 10 divided by R plus 3. So this is using the Ohm's law. So 0.5 R plus 1.5 is equal to 10, and therefore 0.5 R is equal to, that is 10 minus 1.5, that is 8.5. So R is equal to 85 divided by 5. So R is equal to 5 ones are and 5 sevens are 35. So capital R, that is the external resistance in the circuit, should be 17 ohms. Now I have to find out the terminal potential difference. Again we are drawing the current from the battery or a cell. So for discharging terminal potential difference V is equal to E minus IR. Here E is equal to 10 volt minus current is 0.5 and internal resistance is 3. So this is equal to 10 minus 1.5, that is equal to 8.5 volt. That is the terminal potential difference. Terminal potential difference means the potential difference across A and B. So terminal potential difference, again when the current is drawn from the circuit or when the circuit is closed, the EMF decreases and it is called a terminal potential difference. Now again you have two methods. AB is parallel to CD. So if I want to find out the potential difference across capital R, that will also be a terminal potential difference of a cell. So I will use a Ohm's law, I into R. So that is 0.5 multiplied by the 17. Again VCD also comes out to be 8.5 volt. So this is the terminal potential difference of the cell. Now let us say another question of exercise. Now let us say question number 18, which is MCQ like question. Answer the following question. We have a 4-part. You can refer the book. The first part is a steady current flow through a metallic conductor of non-uniform cross section. So your conductor is non-uniform and the current is flowing through it. So current is flowing, let us say the electric field is established in this direction. So electron will flow opposite to the electric field. It is asked which of these quantities is constant along the conductor: current, current density, electric field or drift speed. Now see, if the cross section keeps on changing, the electric field and the drift speed will not remain constant, and we know the current density J is equal to current per unit area. So if area is changing, the current density will also change. But according to law of conservation of electric charge, the charge remains constant. So whatever amount of electrons enter into the cross section, that much number of electrons should flow out from the other side. So according to law of conservation of electric charge, Q remains constant and therefore I remains constant in this situation. So J or drift speed or electric field, all these quantities are directly or indirectly depends on the area, but the current always remains constant because it does not depend on the cross section, because the current is due to the motion of charge, and according to law of conservation of charge, the charge always remains constant. Second part, is Ohm's law universally applicable for all the conducting elements? If not, give the examples which do not obey Ohm's law. So the Ohm's law is not a universal law. So answer is no. Ohm's law is not universal. It is not universal law. Now, which are the devices which do not obey Ohm's law? So we have a semiconductor devices which do not obey Ohm's law. So Ohm's law is not universal law. Then third part. Now this third part, you see, it is given that a low voltage supply from which one need high current must have a very low internal resistance. Why? So if your supply is low, now let us write the formula for current. Current in the circuit is given by total EMF divided by total resistance. And we know that it is necessary to connect an external resistance to prevent the damage to the device or to control the current in the circuit. So if we want to control the current in the circuit, this is a requirement. Otherwise, we have seen many examples where if external resistance is not there, the current becomes dangerously high. Now, if capital R is constant and E is very low and I need large current, it is given a low voltage supply from which one need high current must have very low internal resistance. So if R is constant and E is very low, we need high current, then small r should be as low as possible. So if your EMF of a cell is very low and you need a large current, so the only possibility is we have to connect this external resistance. So only possibility is that cell should have internal resistance to be almost zero or as low as possible. Now opposite of this is given, this was a low supply. Now it is given that a high tension supply, say 6 kilowatt, must have a very large internal resistance. So if a supply is low, small r is low. Now the E is very high. E is very high. Again, I is equal to E upon R plus R. Now if E is very high and suppose there is short circuit, that is R is equal to 0. So if there is a short circuit, it means the current got a free passage. So resistance becomes 0 if the E is very high, and suppose the short circuit occurs, then R is equal to 0. And if R becomes 0, I can be dangerously high. And so the internal resistance should be as high as possible. So suppose there is a short circuit, that is R is 0, then I is dangerously high, which may damage the device. So internal resistance R should be as high as possible. So you have to remember, if it is a high tension, the internal resistance should be high, and if EMF is low and you need a more current, then the internal resistance should be as low as possible. So this was a simple MCQ based question, so that we remember this concept easily. Low EMF and high current is required. R should be as low as possible. If E is very high, that is a high tension supply, and if some mishap happens, if there is some short circuit, then external resistance is 0. Now if external resistance becomes 0, current can be dangerously high and it can damage our device. So the internal resistance should be as high as possible. So we wind up our lecture at this point. Have a nice day.